Hey, good morning to you today on this Tuesday, February the 17th today. We're still going to be talking about counterfeit gods for at least the next couple of days. Today's devotion is entitled The Worst Thing That Can Happen, and the mystery builds. Romans 1:22 and 23. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like a mortal human being and birds and animals and reptiles. Why, our author Tim Keller asks, why is getting your heart's deepest desire so often a disaster? In the book of Romans, St. Paul wrote that one of the worst things God can do to someone is to give them or allow them to have sinful desires of their hearts. Romans 1:24. Why would the greatest punishment imaginable be to allow someone to achieve their fondest dream? It is because our hearts fashion these desires into idols. In that same chapter, Paul summarized the history of the human race in one sentence. Wow. Romans 1:25, they worshiped and served created things rather than the Creator. Every human being must live for something. Something must capture our imaginations, our heart's most fundamental allegiance and hope. But, the Bible tells us, without the intervention of the Holy Spirit, that object will never be God Himself. If we look to some created thing to give us the meaning, hope, and happiness that only God Himself can give, it will eventually fail to deliver, and it will break our hearts. Two Jewish philosophers who knew the scriptures intimately concluded, quote, the central principle of the Bible is the rejection of idolatry. The Bible is therefore filled with story after story depicting the innumerable forms and devastating effects of idol worship. Every counterfeit god a heart can choose, whether love, money, success, or power, has a powerful biblical narrative that explains how that particular kind of idolatry works itself out in our lives. Some of those things listed there aren't bad in and of themselves. What makes them wrong or bad, for use of a more powerful term, is that we want them more than we want God. We want them because we think they will make us happy, that our lives will be so much better if we have, and fill in the blank. We begin to believe that that person, that thing, that hobby, whatever it is we find ourselves talking about a lot and wanting, it begins to take the place of God. I think here at the end when I was reading, I thought of the prodigal son and how much he wanted his inheritance more than he wanted his dad, more than he wanted to stay there and be an obedient son. And he found out the hard way, as humans often do. Israel did, I know that. As you read through the Old Testament, Solomon discovered that even in his wisdom, he messed up and things were not good for him. The prodigal son went off, thought he was going to have the time of his life, and he found out there couldn't be anything further from the truth, where everything fell to pieces. The place that he had gone to entered into a time of poverty, a time of things being broken and unable to provide him. With even food to eat, he got jealous of what the pigs were eating as he slopped them. And that's often what happens. Whenever we remove our passion, wanting God with our whole heart, we're told a couple of times in the Bible that if we're going to find God, we've got to seek for him with our whole heart. We've got to make it the top priority of what we want. And if it's him, then his promise is, if you seek me, if you do that, seek me with your whole heart, you'll find me. Because he's open to that. But, and I'll give you a little heads up on Sunday's sermon, if there are things like Israel did when Moses went back up on the mountain to get the 10 Commandments, they grew impatient. Israel did, the Israelites did. And Moses' brother Aaron told them, okay, everybody, get your gold, get your bracelets and your rings and your necklaces and all those things, and let's make for ourselves a God that we can see, that we can touch, that we can worship. It all went downhill from there. That's the worst thing that can happen, is to make an idol. And that's why God puts it at the top of the list in the 10 Commandments. You will have no other gods. Or in that case, he calls them what they are. You shall have no other idol before me or with me. Not before me, not beside me. Nobody else is in the competition for me. You've got to want me with your whole heart. Otherwise, you've gotten yourself trapped into idolatry. I know for some it's sports. They want to strive in sports and think that they could be a champion, a professional. And maybe it's possible for a while, but then that passes away. You get injured. That happens a lot. People who are very, very good at football, baseball, basketball, whatever, and then they get injured and they're done. That idol is gone. It wasn't something they could just have for the rest of their lives. And that's what happens when we think we can go into the world, find things that are making other people happy, and say, you know what, I want one of those. I want to do that. I want to go there. And we leave God out of the picture. It's not unusual to have that happen. Not unusual at all. And it is the worst thing that can happen, because if we choose something, someone else, as being at the center of who we are, God has been kicked out. That's what we've done. And that is not a good thing. That we don't want that to happen. Hopefully we don't want that to happen. Hopefully we consider that and we keep our priorities straight. Although they claimed to be wise, Paul writes in Romans 1, they claimed to be wise, they became fools. They exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like a mortal human, look like birds, look like animals, look like reptiles. How odd is that, to worship? Again, the knock that God will give in Israel's history is, you're worshiping something you made with your own hands. That makes you the God of it, doesn't it? That's the reasoning that seems to be there. And we see other groups of people who were opposed to Israel. The Philistines, for example, they had a god they'd made with their own hands. They fought Israel in battle one time, and they brought back to their temple with their idol in it, they brought back the tabernacle, the Ark of the Covenant. Oddly enough, they went in the next day and their idol had fallen on the ground. They replaced it. They put it back up. Came back again. It had fallen on the ground and its arms had broken off. They were beginning to understand, hey, you know what? Their God is better than our God. And they return it. They grow afraid of the Ark of the Covenant, what they find out is going on, and they return it back to Israel, who they themselves abused it. They abused it. They treated it as a good luck charm. A lot of people treat God as a good luck charm as well. Hopefully, as followers of Christ, we want God to be at the center of who we are, what we're pursuing in our lives. That's the way to go. That's the way to go. Blessings to you today on this Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed your President's Day yesterday.